Do you want to achieve grades like this? Well, in this video, I'm going to be walking you through my exact study methods on how I achieve grades like this. Hi, I'm Casey, an accelerated nursing student, and I'm sure as you already know, nursing is hard, and then on top of that, I'm an accelerated nursing student. So I have really refined my study techniques to be able to achieve these kind of grades. I think it's really important to know I am not someone who just learns things easily or picks things up easily. Nursing is actually my second degree, and in my first degree, I really struggled. I got a bachelor's degree in biology, and I did not achieve the grades like you're seeing on the screen right now. It was a complete and total struggle for me. So for nursing school, I really had to start from the ground up and completely revamp my study methods, and that is why I'm so happy to be sharing these with you today, because these have been proven to work, because this is exactly what I used to go from being a poor student to being the student that you see on the screen here. So first and foremost, I think it's really important to understand that these are the study techniques that I personally use, and how we learn varies from person to person. So you want to make sure that if you have already found your study method, then stick to it. There's no reason to switch it up if you are achieving the results you want. But I'm assuming since you've clicked on this video that you are looking for a new way to study. So let's go ahead and jump into the first study method that I use. It has been proven time and time again through numerous studies that active recall is going to be the best way for you to study. If you are someone that your way of studying is just rereading lecture slides and rereading notes, honestly, you're wasting your time. The best way to study is going to be active recall, which if you're wondering, you're probably like, what the heck is active recall? Active recall is a high yield study technique because you are repeatedly asking yourself questions on a topic, forcing your brain to retrieve the information and really ingraining the learning. And that is the reason why active recall has been known to be such a high yield study technique, because it's the process of your brain having to consistently retrieve the information that really ingrains the learning. Also, because you're actively asking yourself questions and thinking about answers, this again is going to help keep you focused versus a passive method of studying just like reading. I want to take a little pause to say thank you so much to Skrinntle, who is the sponsor of today's video. Skrinntle is a productivity app that has completely changed the way I study as a student. You guys, I've only been using this app for a couple weeks, and I'm already so excited to integrate it into all of my studying. So Skrinntle is not just a productivity app. It is a visual space that combines an infinite canvas with documents. It blends creativity with clarity. Skrinntle helps you transform abstract thoughts into concrete ideas and strategies, and it facilitates spatial thinking, allowing users to navigate intricate concepts easily. I have just started to use Skrinntle over the past few weeks, and already I love how I can visually see how all my topics are interconnected, as well as I can archive key information. I will be covering exactly how I use Skrinntle later in this video in my study techniques and my study routine, but thank you so much, Skrinntle, for sponsoring this video. They were kind enough to give you guys a 10% off discount a subscription, so use code Casey10 and check Skrinntle out in the link down below. The two forms of active recall I use for studying are flashcards, which I only try to use flashcards when I need to do brute memorization. There are just some things in nursing you just have to memorize and know off the top of your head. And for that, I do use the flashcard software. Anki, I think, is the absolute best out there. But the second active recall study technique I use is making my own study guides. And I have found for nursing, this is the absolute best way to study, because it really reinforces that you have to know the concept and reinforces critical thinking. So if you are in a major or you're studying something where it's more like regurgitation and facts, then I would go ahead and use the flashcards. But if you need to do more critical thinking and that kind of studying, and that is how your tests are going to be framed, I highly recommend making your own study guides. And I know making your own study guides sounds like a super daunting task. You're like, oh my God, how am I gonna do that? Sounds like a lot of work. It's actually not. Like I said, I'm an accelerated nursing student. I do not have a lot of time. I actually have an exam every single week that I am in class. So if I am able to be in class, make my own study guides and use them to study, you definitely have time to do it. I'm a busy woman. I'm out here making YouTube videos and I work full-time in the ER. That's a whole nother story. But basically, end of the gist, if I have time to make my own study guides, you have time to make your own study guides. The way I personally make my study guides is you need to kind of figure out if your instructor is very textbook heavy or very PowerPoint slide heavy. Like, figure out what they are getting their source materials from for the exams. Now, this is a question you can straight up ask in class. This is something you might have to visit their office hours to get that information, or this is something that you might just have to figure out from trial and error. I know that that is something that I have unfortunately had to do, because I have had instructors tell me, I am very textbook heavy and we are gonna use the textbook, da, 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 da. And then, you know, for the exam, I'm studying the textbook, I'm all up in that textbook, and then maybe like one exam question comes from the textbook. But then you'll have the opposite, right? Well, they'll tell you, you don't need to know the textbook, and then you'll see several exam questions where you're like, man, if I read the textbook, I would have known that. If you can get the information from your instructor, try to go directly from the source, but again, take it with a grain of salt until you actually sit down and take one of their exams. Your next question is probably gonna be, how the heck and Bob am I going to make study guide questions out of all of the material that I am given in class? Well, usually a tip that you can follow is that most of your instructors are gonna have a syllabus. Yes, I want you to crack open that syllabus. And we are going to look at the learning objectives listed in the syllabus. Sometimes instructors will even put learning objectives in their PowerPoint slides. Also, learning objectives will be listed at the beginning of the textbook chapters that you're covering for that section. I promise you, somewhere there are learning objectives listed for your class and that unit you're on, because that's basically how instructors are able to prove to that institution that these students are competent on these specific things. They do have to give somewhat of an outline of the class to the institution that they're teaching upon, so that way they can get accreditation and da 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 da. So I promise you, somewhere, somehow, there are learning objectives somewhere. If there are not learning objectives, I'm going to go over that next, because one time I was like, where are the learning objectives? And they were nowhere to be found. So I will cover that in a second, but we are currently on the path of you have your learning objectives. So literally what I do, copy and paste those learning objectives for the units or the sections that are going to be on your exam, and then boop, put them into a Word document, and those are your study guide questions. Now, if you don't have the learning objectives, what I like to do is I like to take the course material and the stuff that your instructor really honed in on during class, just turn those into study guide questions. So usually like PowerPoint slides or lectures will have like main points. And so what you can do is you can take those main points and turn them into broad study guide questions. Once you have made your study guide questions, the next thing you're going to want to do is fill out your study guide. You want to choose one color and fill out your study guide from memory, no outside sources. Then, once you have finished filling out your study guide from memory, no outside sources, you are going to go in a different color and you're going to fill out the material you didn't know in that different color, and you're gonna start using your outside sources like your PowerPoints, your lecture notes, and your textbook to help you fill in the gaps of knowledge. It's super key that for every single study guide question, you want to pretend almost like you are the instructor and that you're giving a mini lecture on someone who has never heard of the topic, and you are as thoroughly as possible filling out each study guide question. Now, this is the time when I'm going back and using my outside resources. If I'm not understanding a topic or something's not clicking, this is where I go ahead and I do my content deep dive and I relearn anything that I need to. So I'm looking things up in the textbook, I'm Googling YouTube videos, I am going back into my lecture notes, and this can definitely start to get overwhelming, especially if you are like me, where you are using multiple different sources to fill in your gaps of knowledge. And so this is actually where today's video sponsor comes in, Skrintl. Thank you so much, Skrintl, for sponsoring today's video. Skrintl is a new productivity app that I have been using to be able to help me organize all my ideas and my thoughts. When you have so many different resources out there that you're using, it's so nice to be able to condense them all in one productivity app. So right now, I'm currently using Skrintl to learn about DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis, and this is a extremely complex topic, and I absolutely love Skrintl for learning about this. One of my favorite features about Skrintl is the overview effect. This gives me an infinite canvas where I'm able to put down all my ideas and thoughts and then see how they're interconnected visually. And this is something where research is starting to show that visual learning might be better than vertical learning, if you don't know what I'm talking about. So visual learning is like mind mapping, which is what Skrintl is, but on steroids, where vertical learning would be just writing everything down in a list, where with visual learning, you're actually able to see the interconnections versus using a list. Many processes in nursing are interconnected, and many disease processes are interconnected. For example, DKA. So DKA is caused by high blood sugars, and high blood sugars then cause the acidosis in the body. Now, acidosis is a concept that I covered earlier in the semester, but I might need some brushing up on. With Skrintl, I am able to make a completely separate card for the process of acidosis, and then I'm able to link that card to other disease processes, so then I can go back and see, number one, what acidosis is, how it affects the body, and then number two, all the disease processes that are associated with acidosis that are not DKA. And this is something that you cannot do with any other productivity app out there. I think that that is so cool. Next thing you can do, which I think is super neat, is something that is caused by DKA, nausea vomiting. So nausea vomiting can then induce an electrolyte imbalance. Well, while I'm studying, I might want to brush up on my electrolyte imbalances, and I can link a video from my favorite YouTuber about electrolyte imbalances to be able to brush up. So I can archive information from other sources on Skrintl. It's not just typed notes. I can also import JPEGs, so whether they're screenshots from your PowerPoints or pictures that you get off the internet, or you can even put in PDF files. Another great adaptation I think this would be used for is if you're having to write a paper. I think that Skrintl would be absolutely amazing for, you can organize your paper into intro, body, conclusion, and then when you have to write academic papers, you need to have different sources. You could put each source on your Skrintl canvas, and then you could go even further by organizing those sources by when you're going to use them in your paper. So the ways you can use Skrintl are absolutely endless, and to be honest, guys, I have just started using this app, so I am honestly at the tip of the iceberg to fully utilizing Skrintl's potential, but I know as a student it is going to be absolutely invaluable with having so many different sources in one spot. Like the fact that I can put my favorite learning YouTube videos in the same spot, like my best study guide notes, my personal notes, any PDF docs, and like the best images out there all in one place. That is going to be an absolute game changer. I personally highly recommend Skrintl to enhance your productivity, and I do have a discount code for you guys. It'll be CASEY10, and it will be good for the next 4 weeks after this video is published. Thank you so much, Skrintl, for sponsoring this video. So after I've taken my content deep dive and I have filled in any gaps of knowledge I may have, and I actually have learned and understanded all, is understanded a word? And I understand all the material that is going to be tested on, I will then create a blank study guide of my current one. So I'll just reopen the same document blank, and I will fill out everything from memory, no outside sources. Then I will compare that to the other document and I will fill in my gaps of knowledge again in a different color. And I will do this again and again and again until I can fill in the entire study guide from memory. Now, by filling out what you don't know in a different color, if you are consistently filling out this study guide and you are missing one specific topic, this allows you to visually see, okay, this is a topic I need to cover again because I keep forgetting it or I'm not understanding it or something like that. You guys, seriously, this is the study method I have been using in my accelerated nursing program, and I have been getting exceptional grades ever since I have been using this. I've been super happy. Thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure you check out Scrintle in the link down below. You will be able to get 10% off only for the next 4 weeks since this video has been posted. So thank you so much, Scrintle, for following this video. If you guys have any questions about studying, nursing school, anything like that, please leave your comments down below. I absolutely love interacting with you guys, and I want you to be as successful as possible as a student. I'll see you guys in the next one.